Welcome. I am Crime Queen, and if you're joining us for the first time, this is the channel where we are having fun with words and numbers, numerology to be precise. Before I go on, because I have been um, doing this in the past and I want to ensure that I remember to remind you to smile and to laugh because these are really wonderful ways of increasing your vibration. In fact, if we take the word smile, for instance, it is synonymous with miles. We just shift the position of the letter S, and that means your smile travel miles. Okay, laugh. I haven't come across a word for laugh yet, but this all derived from the story of Sarah and Abraham, of course, where Sarah was told that she would conceive and she was 90 years of age. Of course, 90. That reminds me as well. I think it's 90, but it's the number 9 where we birth newness. So, of course, that was the message then. And at that age, of course, there would be an image of that message imprinted in her mind. I am 90, meaning there is a connection. 9. And of course, in that conversation, to laugh about it, that would increase that vibration for birthing newness. So there is a thing, as I always say, for people who want to conceive as well, perhaps not worry too much, just laugh, keep laughing and keep smiling, you know. Whatever it is we want to birth. Now, I'd also like to introduce you to Mother Eve in case you are new to this channel and you have not seen this before. And this is also our template for numerology. It may look a little bit crowded now, but basically it has been derived from doing an exercise or presentation from the word sacrifice. So we have the numbers, which standard numbers for numerology here from numbers 1 to 9. Of course, they all sit very well under the word sacrifice. It is intuitively done, but we see it's as if I was guided to do this. Not as if I was guided to do this. And so we have the word sacrifice comes to 46, meaning that would be 4 plus 6 is 10. But also I see the 9 as a pre position or pre shape or function of that 10. So it's like the 0 and the 1 is stuck together. It's a function. Okay, so that means it is still 10 when we go back to this S here. All right, so which is 1. And we also had been working with Revelation, and we've done numerous presentations on Revelation because Revelation is 31, and that which also reflects like the West, which is where we go in the night or where the sun sets, if you like, but also denoting the nighttime. Our Father, there are numerous numbers that would correspond with like the usual 31 days of the month as well. But it also mirrors water too. Water is let's just see if I remember 23. Okay, water is 23, so that would be 5. Now water 23. Oh wow, I'm just so touched here now because when I did this 23 here, I wasn't really thinking of water. First of all, and if you check on my presentations from the early ones, I had the number 3, which I created, painted this because I just felt the energy just to let out that number 3 vibrations that seem to be like that germ or bacteria or wave vibration that is always seeking to be realized. And that's what we had here. And then afterwards, I thought, well, perhaps I should do 1, 2, 3. But I then, of course, like worked backward, and I did 2. But it's like I was guided not to do any more than just the 2. So in reference to this, you will see that I had 32, and then they fell down, of course, like they do sometimes. And then I repositioned it, and it was 23. So ever since then, I have been seeing loads of 23s all around, and I have been asking Spirit Guide, well, what is the 23 about? Of course, I have done lots of other 23s, but it's as if they were just really shouting at me. And here we are talking about water. Now that's what water does. Water is so gentle, and yet still it can be so, well, I wasn't going to say rough. It can be rough as well. You will have hurricanes and disasters when water is really ready to make its statement. So yes, water is very, very powerful in that sense, and that is what these presentations we are dealing with in Genesis of chapter 1 is seeking to be expressed. The waters in the second verse is seeking to be realized now as the divine feminine, and there is a cry, which is what these presentations are about now. It's as if the masculine, the divine masculine, is crying out for the attention of the divine feminine, and that is what we are concerned here with. Now, I hadn't called on revelation for a while because I like to just call out the word revelation and water, and because I have seen what that can do even through my own emotions while I'm doing these presentations. So perhaps that's why I hadn't bothered to really call on before, trying to contain myself. But now let's call on waters and revelations to guide us and be transparent in what we want to do, and just trust that everything is okay. Everything is as it ought to be. So there again we had dots, as I say if you are new, and this derived again from the I am that I am, which was the name, if you like, given to Moses on Mount Sinai to the children of Israel. Just so let's cut this short, but the I am that I am, the word that is dots. It's the same vibration, the same numerical vibration or as that, which is 13. And we have seen how 13 has been very symbolical. It is very pronounced in what we have been learning here, as deriving again from the word sacrifice, because which is all about Jesus Christ having the Last Supper with his 12 disciples and him, of course, being 13. Now that was a demarcation, if you like, or a framework or a mold of a new life, and that's what 13 is about. I call it the incubator right now. That was from my last presentations, so which I think it's really very fitting now. It's holds that 3 vibration, it also is 4. It is it just encapsulates so much, and so we will continue to explore, of course, as we go along, explore the number 13. It just shows up anyway. So here we are with Genesis of chapter 1 verse 5. Now I have a little note here as well, because this is just so delicious, and I'm just hoping that you grasp the essence. Again, I'm hoping that I can just quickly summarize what we've done. Of course, in the first verse, we know about God created heaven and earth. We hear God created in the beginning, which is a process. The word beginning equals 9. So 9 is birthing. It's the process of birth. And in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. Of course, we learn further on there are heavens and always one earth, but they are heavens. God, like in the Psalms, in number 8, thereabout. So we can see perhaps even from Genesis of chapter 1, where the word heavens could derive as well, because God had divided the waters, that's in verse 4, had divided the waters from the waters and the firmament that was above the waters. And so there were firmament twice and then division. So there was lots of division in the fourth verse. So we could say that the firmament in itself is denoting heavens in this sense. Okay, so that is one way of I- um, identifying with this statement. Now, the other thing, of course, we also have explored that on the third verse, where God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So, this is the third verse, but we also learn later on that God called the light out of the darkness. So, that would mean that the darkness consisted of light. Everything comes from the darkness. So on to the second verse before I have mentioned the third, but the second verse is where the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters or the face of the deep. And the waters and God, well, I haven't, I'm always kind of a little bit stuck with that, but the face of the deep. And then there was the waters. Okay. And God called. Okay, there was a sextile happening there. There was magic happening there. God looked upon the face of the waters and the Spirit of God moved, and of course, yeah, on the face of the deep, that's the thing. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the deep. So the face of the deep, that was the waters, of course. So later on, of course, we also learn that God divided the waters from the waters, and we see that, of course, that division of the waters from the waters, it's like He strained the waters. There was like um, you could imagine, like it said, He created the earth with His hands. Well, the magic happens, and then and the dry land, He called it earth. So you could imagine the ocean, and there is the bed of the ocean, which is earth as well. There's earth or sand, whatever, but that would be what God would have strained to some extent and then put it onto one side of what He calls earth, the dry land, and then there's the ocean. So we have covered those aspects where God called great whales out of the ocean and those that had life. So that is in reference to the verse of 20 or 21. But let's not go too far ahead with this, but it's just to really highlight that there was life in the waters when God stirred or his spirit moved, perhaps whatever he saw or he was able to um, de- um, detect from the deep of the waters. His spirit moved, or his reflection, whatever was happening, that his spirit moved. Okay, and then it was in the third verse, he said, well, let there be light, and there was light. And of course, God created. Now, he said, let there be light. And afterwards, God created two great lights. The lesser one he called um, to rule by night, and the greater one to rule by day, which we call the sun, and the moon for night. Okay, so it doesn't say sun and moon there in that part, but later on we understand that, and that is what, of course, is evident to us as well. So now we are looking at the fifth verse, which is where God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So basically, there's the aspect of the deep, which is the dark, which would seem dark. So there was the division. It's like calling Like the ocean is still there, but taking a part of it to do all the experiments of saying, okay, now I have extracted light here and then I've put the darkness there. So you sun, you rule the day, and you moon over there, you rule the night, or you rule the night, which is the darkness. Okay, the darkness he called night. Okay, so because we are working with numerology so far I have done over 400 presentations, and I have seen that numerology have answered so many questions or concerns and have given me great insight to understanding the scriptures, which is my um, that has been my motivation to understand how the scriptures had impacted on our lives. Now, so in this sense, I am also looking at the timer and wanting to keep the presentations watchable. Well, it depends on an individual perspective now, because perhaps I should not really even mention it too much, but let's go along and see how we get on. And of course, I think this will take us in different segments of this presentation. So let's look at the numbers. Now, in Genesis of chapter 1, verse 5, of course, where God called. So this is where He's had the lights, and so I have written this here, and just to make it simpler as well, and if you are new to the format or the workings of numerology, I also have presentations on template to actualizing self-love. That will give you the way of how the numbers are worked out with each in accordance with the letters. Each letter of the alphabet holds a numerical value from 1 to 9, and that's how we work out the letters basically. Okay, so just to make this simpler, just to start off, so this is 417, and also this is 39782. So this is day and this is light. So 7 plus 1, 8, and 4 is 12. So 12 we add till we get a single digit. So 12, 1 plus 2 equals 3. So we have 3 here. And 12, of course, when we look at the 12 also coincide with 12 hours of the day, the 12 zodiac signs, the 12 months of the year, and the 12 tribes of Israel. And we can see how day, it almost gives me the inclination, or it drives the meaning that as they as well, THEY. And while I say that, let's just do the numerical value for that, but I'm getting with the sound, or the God has given us the sound mind. He say, I have not given you the spirit of fear, but the spirit of sound mind. And I'm also working with this on numerology. So this is 2857. This is 12, and 10 is 22. 2 plus 2, of course, is 4. Now, there further on, we see God has given us days as signs, which would mean that we would have an S here, and that would be 4, which would coincide with they, of course, because plural, more than one, here for days, and they, of course, is also plural, so plural. So this would mean that they and they are really one and the same. Okay. So let's add, I know light is 11, which is the master number, but let's just do this. This is 10, and 7, 17, and 3 is 20, 29. 2 plus 9 is 11. So 1 plus 1 is 2. So there we see we have 2 here, and 3 here. That gives us 5. Okay, this is 5. Now we have darkness. Let's do darkness is 10. When we add 10 together, it's 1, of course. But let's do this. Okay, so it's 4, 1, 9, 2, 5, 5, 1, 1. Let's add this up. So 5, 5, 10, 9, that is plus 1, that is 20, 23, and 1, 24, and 4 is 28. 2 plus 8 is 10. This is the 10 that is also magical, because we see 10 equates heaven, it equates hell. We wouldn't have thought that hell and heaven would really have the same numerical value, but it does. So basically, it's also the number for pure. Is it pure or perfect? Meaning that we could say hell, for whatever it is, it's descriptive of a characteristic of a thing or person. So 10 is that. Is in actual fact, whatever is 10. So the word is equals 10. So 10 is really saying to us it's impartial. It is male and female in whatever aspect of whatever we want it to be, whatever thing that we are identifying as in that moment, or in that in whatever context. 10 is okay. So let's do night, which is 31, but we're going to go over this. This is 5, 9, 7, 8, 2. 10, which are similar numbers here actually. 10 and 7 is 17, and 17 and 9 would be 26, and 5 would be 31. 3 plus 1 equals 4. Okay. Now, the thing that I find interesting here with these darkness and night, oh yes, this is what I found interesting. So darkness and night, when we add this together, also equals 5. So darkness and night equals 5. Then we have day and light equals 5. Right here, these two. Now I'm going to just and then let's continue with this. And this is what God called those aspects of creation in verse 5. In fact, it is in verse 5, which is the turn on for me in this presentation. So we are talking about Genesis 1 verse 5. Okay, so there is another 5 here. So there are like land indicators for us. There are signs, because again, that's what God said further on in Genesis. Days and years are there for signs and seasons. So basically, we need to be paying attention to the days and the years, and that has its numerical value as well, but we'll move on to that at a later stage. And there we are with 23 minutes 26 on the clock. So we're talking about 23 minutes. So these are the 5s here. Now, what I want to point out here before I go on further is that that's when the evening and the morning here was the first day. That's correct. So we are talking about the first day, the evening, EVEN. Is it 2 N's? ING, evening. I've done it before and I think it's 9. So, and the morning, let's see, RNING. Okay, so morning is 9. So it's 4, 6, 9, 5, 9, 5, 7. Okay. So this is 12 and 14, 12 and 14, plus 15, and 4 is 19. So let's do this. It's just the time of day with my mind now. So this would be 2, 4, 6, and 9 is 15. So that is 45. 4 plus 5 is 9. So that's the morning. And let's do the evening. So we know the morning is 9. And the evening now is 5, 4, 5, 5, 9, 5, 7. Okay, so here we have 12 and 14. Again, that would be 26 and 26 and 14. Let's do it this way, 26 and 14. So that is 0, so that's 4. So basically, evening is 4. We are talking about 4 and 9. When we add, this is what I'm talking about with the magic of number 13. So when we add 4 plus 9, that gives us 13. That equals 13. And that's really the day. So although we see that here God had called, this is really interesting. Here he called the evening and the morning were the first. He's saying it was the first day. So here we have days which would still coincide with number 4. So we can see how 4 as a day, when we talk about day, we are talking about the 4 points: our north, our south, our east, and our west. That's what we are talking about. We are talking about, I've done all this before. So the evening, which we have 4 here, and, or the east, I have positioned them different. Well, okay. So the east is here and the west is here. And the east is 9, and west is also 4. It's just like the evening and the morning. These two coincide very well, whether it were morning and evening or the east and the west. Here we have the north, which is 3, and the south is 2. There is 5 here in this way of doing it. I have done the figures on this before just to keep this not, well, too long, but we see what happens here as well. So we have 13 here plus 5, that would be 18. 1 plus 8 would be 9. And we see how we have the whole cycle, 9 of the numerology here from numbers 1 to 9. Okay, so this is going a little bit off where we really want to conclude on this. So where we really want to conclude on this is to see the correlation. It's as if Genesis of chapter 1 and verse 5 has the feminine, the divine feminine stamp on it, where it consists of day and night. It's like saying that the waters, which I believe to be Mother Eve, I'm not talking about Eve as in Adam and Eve. I'm talking about the feminine, well, not I'm talking about the divine feminine, the source of all creation. I'm talking about the source of all, the mother of all creation, because that's why Adam named his wife Eve, because she was the mother of all living, meaning he was naming his wife, he was acknowledging the derivative of his wife Eve, where it's like saying um, junior and senior, or Martin Luther King, or junior, or but it's really the same name, the same title. It's like acknowledging the character and the source and all that it is. So we see how in creation now, because God called, he didn't name. There's a difference when you name something and you call it. So if you call, it means you have called it by name. or you have called it by a name, but he called it day, he called it night. We are not clear of where the name derived from in this sense in where we are at with this investigation. Yes. So, but we can see what is happening here. So when we add this 2 plus 3, that gives us 5. It's like really saying, it's really saying, um, two halves of an apple, you know. So this is the left of the apple and this is the right of it, but it's the apple. It is apple. It's just identifying the different characteristics of Mother Eve in this sense, the divine feminine. That's what's happening here. So I think we need to be very mindful of how we have perceived this the story of creation in the Bible. It's like we have the notion that the God we read about in Genesis is the creator of the waters and the bed of the waters and all form of life there. Yes, it may be, it's not maybe. I believe that which we have now is definitely the creation and work of the God that we read about in the Bible, but the life form that created or that God worked with had come from the waters. So basically, we are in essence a modified species. So the wonderful thing that I did discover as well, I think it is wonderful that we are 70% water, and I think there is a slight variation to that, 70 or 80, and I am more inclined to believe it's 80, that because God set certain things like in Genesis of chapter 17, where God's name or title is 17 there, because the one is from heaven and the seven is earth, and these two together, that's what formed God. So of course that um embodiment of God is the figure 8, which is in infinity, the figure or symbol of infinity. And we see that there is where the things got twisted. We have been going around and not knowing where we at, because God set that pattern of everything God did. He set us and everything else in that pattern. But we need to acknowledge this is where this is the source we are from. We are number 5. And so let's just conclude on this here. Before we conclude, just let's examine, just to wrap up here again, that we are number 5 on this template. This is where we say, and we continue to make reference to God, to Christ, because it is said when you are in Christ or you accept Christ as your Savior, you are a new creature. But this here is where we see that the new is in the middle of the spectrum, and it's really in the middle. We see the word new, which is from the alphabets, the way the letters have been formed here, and we have been given the spirit of sound mind and the spirit of wisdom to be able to position some of these letters in a way that makes perfect sense, that we can identify or see ourselves in the scriptures, from the scriptures. So there we have the 5, because if et of the apple, which is the number 8, we also see the word 8 is it equals 8 as well. So the number 8 or equals the tongue as well. We have done this. Tongue is 10. In fact, the word tongue, I believe, is 10, but the word it, so when Mother Eve, what there we are talking about, even whether it were the Adam Eve had eaten of the apple that we were told she was not supposed to eat of, but then there's the story that she ate of it. And when you eat something, you digest it. And this is where we have God, because we are designed to evolve, meaning look up, go up. Of course, our food goes down, but we know that we have all hemispheres that are in sync with our hearts when we are in tune, that we have a bridge, that the food, whatever it is, gets digested, which takes us to the bridge, and the bridge takes us to the sun. The sun meaning number nine, or whether it was number three, the third eye. This is where we become illuminated. So, this is the template. I have done a lot of things to show how this process is being really perfect and balanced, because we can see there are four letters and four numbers on either sides, and that in itself tells us that um, of course, when we see ourselves with the five-pointed star, like I have showed as well, where there is the head, there is the two arms and the two legs, we can see how this is the position of balance. It is the position of balance right here as well. We have we can see with the number five, everything is really five senses. Our 5 points, our five hands. We have five hands, five fingers on either side. So of each limb and our toes. So there we can see how the five works out very perfectly in line with the depiction of light and day. So basically, hands, our hand, hair, and all is light and day. And I will just wrap this up on on the point that where Christ also reminded the disciples or the teachings in his teachings, and to say, don't you know that you are the light of the world? So meaning that you are the light that when God said, let there be light, we were there. We were already in existence. And nothing lives or exists without the light. Of course, and that is from that point, it goes on to the two greater lights. Of course, the two greater lights, of course, because this is where God created or made two great lights. So he saw it was good, meaning there was he was in a laboratory dividing lights like scientists do cells today. Okay, all right. So I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope you have found this fun. And it's really, again, with the number 13 that is very magical. And it's just beautiful to see how the number 13 is really represents who we are. And as it is said, God has given us this as signs. The sign would be to show the pattern of the incubation of how he, God, as well operated, of course. So thank you. I hope you have enjoyed this. I hope you have found this fun. Do like and subscribe and share, because this is how we do it. We share to actualizing self-full love. Stay blessed, stay bright, be a field, because we are planting new seeds, and spill over with love. Remember to smile.